Can we acknowledge how wild the 2000s was for Disney? Yes, even apart from that. At the start of the early 2000s, Disney as a studio was riding high off of incredible success in the 1990s, having created some of the greatest animated movies of all time, and also having found a lot of success in live-action films aimed at adults. The 2000s actually did prove to still be relatively reliable for Disney with live-action materials, such as the hugely successful Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, and smaller hits such as Signs or Kill Bill, or even television productions made for ABC such as Lost. However, this is where Disney's animated prowess definitely began to wane. After the huge success of films such as Aladdin and The Lion King, Disney began to get more experimental with its animated films, causing an incredibly diverse array of movies to be released by them in the 2000s. You had everything from a sequel to Fantasia, a passion project made by Walt Disney himself 60 years earlier, to Disney's own lame attempt at recreating Shrek. But among all the insane projects greenlit by Disney Animation in the 2000s, one in particular really stands out amongst them all to this very day. I'm talking about none other than Atlantis The Lost Empire, which not only is very likely the most unique film Disney Animation has ever produced, and a true underrated gem, but also is a genuinely great autistic coded character at its core. So today, I'd like to discuss not only why this is the most unique film Disney has ever made, and probably ever will make, but also why it just happens to have one of the best autistic coded character in any media. That's right, despite Disney getting autism representation very wrong and sounding like the good doctor, they'd actually already made a fantastic autistic protagonist 16 years earlier in one of their greatest animated films. Still doesn't excuse them for making the good doctor though.
I am a surgeon! I am a surgeon!
But how exactly did this happen? And what makes Milo Thatch, the main character of Disney's Atlantis, such a brilliant autistic coded character? Well, to explain that, we need to look at how this film came about to begin with. Our story begins in 1996, where after directing Beauty and the Beast and The Hunchback of Notre Dame for Disney, the directing duo by the names of Kirk Wise and Gary Trousdale were having lunch in a Mexican restaurant discussing ideas for future films they wanted to create at Disney together. One common theme that kept coming up between the two directors was their love for the kinds of adventure films that Disney used to make but no longer seem to, such as 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and Swiss Family Robinson, as well as the more recent swashbuckling adventure films at the time, such as the Star Wars or Indiana Jones films. They wanted to find a way to blend the feel of those live-action films with the current generation of Disney animation, blending CGI with traditional hand-drawn animation to create something truly unique, which ultimately they undoubtedly achieved. To this day, there has not really been a Disney movie like Atlantis. This is a movie where Disney hired Mark Okrand, the linguist from Star Trek who created the Klingon language for that show, to create the Atlantean language in their film, and also hired Mike Mignola, the creator of the Hellboy comic book series, to be the film's main art director, which really gives the film such a distinct, angular look to it that no other Disney film can really lay claim to. This is just not a movie you would ever see from Disney today, and only could have happened in this pocket of time when Disney was looking to break their Broadway musical style formula and tell new kinds of stories. And this especially shows with the film's main character, Milo Thatch, who is the most unique protagonist Disney has ever had at the forefront of their films, and also unintentionally a fantastic autistic protagonist. Atlantis tells the story of Milo, a young, nerdy linguist who dreams of going on an expedition to find the lost city of Atlantis, and has his prayers answered when he receives a call to action from a friend of his grandfather, who gives Milo a journal that belonged to his grandfather, and teams him up with a crew of hardened explorers who totally aren't mercenaries waiting to plunder the treasures of an indigenous people.
I prefer the term adventure capitalist.
With this crew in tow, Milo goes on a voyage underground to discover the city he's always dreamed about. From the get-go, it's already apparent that Milo is an underdog in every sense of the word. While many other male Disney protagonists may have notable weaknesses, such as Aladdin being a street thief who must survive solely on his wits, there's oftentimes still a lot of advantages a character like that also has, such as Aladdin not only being crafty, but also having a clear athletic ability. Milo Thatch is literally just a scrawny young man with a book and a hyperfixation on Atlantis. He has all the odds in the world stacked against him. This really causes him to stand apart from any other Disney protagonist before him, and also helps his autism coding to shine through all the more, since he sticks out blatantly against this crew of rough and tumble mercenaries he's with for this journey. But while the crew mocks Milo's awkwardness and hyperfixation on lost civilizations, they slowly start to turn their thinking around little by little, especially after one scene in particular. But before I dive into what what that particular scene is, I'm gonna remind you to subscribe if you haven't already, if you've been enjoying this video so far. I do videos covering film, both live action film and animated film, and specifically analyzing film tropes, especially with autism representation in film, so if you like this video so far, you'll likely like the other videos I've made too. You can also join my Discord, which is linked below, where you can suggest future topics for me to cover on YouTube, and also talk to like-minded people overall. Also, check out my Letterboxd if you haven't already. That's where I review movies, oftentimes movies or shows I won't review here on YouTube. But with that out of the way, let's discuss the exact scene that really causes the crew to see Milo in a much different light. At one point during the expedition, the crew's drill vehicle actually gets stuck underground against a giant gold statue. While the crew isn't exactly sure what to do about this at first, Milo ends up being the one that helps them out, using his expertise on working in a boiler room to get the engine running again. After this moment, the crew realizes that Milo is really just like one of them, a guy who wants to explore the world around him and find the finer details of it that so many people usually miss. This creates some really heartwarming bonding moments between Milo and the crew as they truly get to know each other and understand each other, which I think in a lot of ways mirrors the best kinds of relationships between a neurodivergent person and a neurotypical person, where while a neurotypical person isn't truly going to relate to every aspect of a neurodivergent person or totally understand the struggles they may go through, they can still find some things to bond with them over and have their back and still ultimately become friends with them. Milo is very blatantly coded as an autistic character here, being so different from literally everybody around him, but ultimately it's his unique perspective on life and his love for solving the lost mysteries of the world that is what convinces this group of mercenaries to turn their back on their adventure capitalist leader and do the right thing, choosing to stand behind Milo and the indigenous people, since their leader, Commander Rourke, intends to let them die by stealing their life force to sell it to a foreign country. Milo shows a never-ending resolve to always do the right thing and stay loyal to his beliefs no matter what hardships he encounters in this film, which ultimately is another very autistic coded trait. And it's this determination and moral integrity that helps him band together with his friends and take down the evil Commander Rourke and save the people of Atlantis. Milo's autistic traits are put on full display here with so much heart and genuineness, and in such a natural way too. He's not seen as a robotic savant by those around him who can't understand sarcasm or comedy at all, and he's not just seen as some helpless man-child that must be infantilized as well. He's just a nerdy young man who is incredibly passionate about finding this lost city he's always dreamed of exploring, but still won't stray from doing what's truly right, and stays loyal to his morals to the very end. Ultimately, this is just further proof that oftentimes in Hollywood, the best autistic protagonists usually end up being the ones not even explicitly written to be autistic. Overall, Milo is a shining example of what an autistic protagonist should look like, and probably one of the best we've ever gotten, with how naturally his characterization is handled, especially regarding his chemistry with those around him. And to be honest, Atlantis still remains Disney's most unique film they've ever produced, even to this day, like I said at the start of this video. It's just a pure spectacle to behold and a truly breathtaking animated adventure film with a nostalgic old-school pulp feel to it. Unfortunately, this film came out at perhaps the worst time it possibly could. In the early 2000s, audiences were beginning to shift from choosing to give their money to traditionally animated hand-drawn films to fully computer animated films from the likes of Pixar and DreamWorks. In fact, when Atlantis released in 2001, not only did it have to face off against Shrek and Monsters Inc. for animated box office comparisons, but the same month it came out, it had to face off against Lara Croft Tomb Raider, the first Fast and the Furious movie, and also Dr. Dolittle 2, all of which were massive successes for their respective studios. Needless to say, Atlantis did not perform to Disney's expectations, and 3 years after this, they announced their decision to leave hand-drawn traditional animation behind for good. In the years following the film's release, however, it's definitely built up a large reputation as a cult classic, and for good reason. This is easily one of Disney's most unique animated projects they've ever embarked upon, and it really stands as a testament of how to do an autistic protagonist correctly. I hope any movies or shows wanting to feature an autistic character choose to look to this movie for guidance. It really is the blueprint on how to handle something like this, and how to not just infantilize the autistic character or treat them like some all-knowing savant, but instead just treating them like a regular person, a regular part of the crew. But what do you think? Am I wrong about Milo? Does Disney's Atlantis actually suck? Let me know down below in the comments. Once again, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and join the Discord too so you can suggest future projects for me to cover here on YouTube. Once again, you can also check out my letterbox to see movies and shows I won't always review on YouTube. Special thanks to my patrons DDC1996 and Trayvon Gibson. Patrons get early access to every video and are shouted out at the end of every video too, as well as getting to pick movies and shows for me to react react to. I also just want to give a special thank you to those I've seen spreading real autism awareness, acceptance, and appreciation in the comments of every video. It really makes me happy to see this message getting out there more, and hopefully I can continue to educate folks here. But regardless, I've been Noah the Otter, and I'll see you on the Otter side. Bye!